back to the Charter Podcast, everyone. Ruthie Polinsky, 𝗏𝗏𝗶𝗹, Alex Shapiro. This podcast, as always, is brought to you by St. Xavier University. We have some breaking news on the Charter Podcast. Relatively breaking, may not be breaking by the time you are listening to this podcast, but we have some official dates for the Chicago Bears preseason, which I think is another exciting part of the schedule. You start to look ahead. You say, wow, we're talking about the preseason. We're talking about real football games. We're talking about August games. It's already almost June. This thing is creeping up. Here we go. Everyone fired up. Look at Clay's face if you're watching on the screen. Really exciting, guys. The Bears will open their preseason against the Miami Dolphins on Sunday, August 10th. That'll be a noon kickoff. And the following week, they're going to host the Buffalo Bills in Chicago, Sunday, August 17th at 7:00 p.m. And then they'll finish the preseason on the road against the Kansas City Chiefs on Friday, August 22nd at 7:20. Man, I'm already looking at those games like, who the heck is going to be playing in those games, especially for the Chiefs and the Bills, as we talk about those people probably don't need to play in too many preseason games. Guys, also breaking news today, in addition to those preseason dates, we know that the Bears are going to host both the Dolphins and the Bills for a session of joint practices, which is really cool. Always fun, I think, for people like us who cover teams and then get to kind of cover other teams in those settings. And also cool for the fans who are going to be in Chicago. And those, I would imagine, are going to be open to the public. Don't you think, guys?
Yeah, we'll see. Probably, you would imagine. Like those are big moments, and people want to see the stars. People want to see the 𝗵𝗏 𝗪𝗀 of the world, the Josh Allens of the world. And joint practices. I mean, as you said, Ruthie, are so great for us in the media. I imagine they're also great for the players because instead of going against the same guy you've been going against over and over, day in and day out, you get to go against somebody who's got a little different move set, somebody who doesn't know exactly what you're going to do, somebody who's wearing the different colors, not your own colors. And then for us, it's just like, obviously storyline. Last year, the joint practices against the Bengals were great, even though it was super rainy and my notes were literally like dissolving mush from all the rain. It was just a lot of fun to watch the Bears take on. You got something, Ruthie?
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, Clay, you can probably touch on this a little bit. I don't know if you ever participated in joint practices heading into preseason games, but it's kind of cool because if Josh Allen doesn't play in that preseason game, he will definitely be practicing on Thursday, right? Or whenever they hold those joint practices. So it's a cool opportunity for the defense to kind of get some full speed reps against someone other than yourself. And you're getting to go up against the ones, which you may not get to do in that actual preseason game.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also another thing is always liked against about these joint practices. I've had plenty back in my day. It's team building. Instead of going against your defense, the defense is kind of the enemy. The offense is kind of the enemy. You guys kind of script things a certain way the coaches do. And now you get to come together as a full team and pull for your guys going against another team. The other thing is you're looking to go against different schemes, right? Because with the Bears, you're going to be going against Dennis Allen's scheme all year, all training camp, all OTAs, right? And then you get a chance to maybe go against, say, a 3-4 defense, a 4-3 defense, because your blocking schemes changed. And I always like that because when you're in the season, you're not back-to-back weeks. You're going against the same defense. You want to see different defenses because it gets you ready for the different things you're going to see, the different coverages, the different line stunts. Some teams may run a lot of loops. Some teams may run a lot of games. Maybe the Bears aren't planning on running a lot of games. It's something you need to see to get ready for the season. And then Alex touched on it. You get used to the guys' moves you're going against. You get used to how they play you in coverage. You get used to those things, and that makes you better because one day your guy you're going against every day might get the better of you, and that just makes you want to come back and figure out a way. Okay, now I got to figure out a different combination release to get open without getting touched. I have to figure out a different way to block this guy because he's been long arming me. Now I got to jump the snap count, stay low, do some different type things, and it does elevate you to that competitiveness, that competition. But playing against different players, playing against different schemes is invaluable because you're seeing a lot of different things that are more similar to what you're going to see during the season.
No, it's great stuff. Obviously, we have a little bit of time. We'll have all of training camp to sort of get ready for the preseason games and just sort of study what the Bears are going to look like. Yeah, Clay, go ahead.
And there's one more thing there. This is cool for the younger guys, and I've been there before too. It's a chance for an audition because a lot of times in the preseason, now there's only 3 preseason games. A lot of these young guys, no, not even young guys, just guys like, say, Devin Duvernay, a guy that you're in a crowded receiver room, not to single out Devin Duvernay. He had a great day yesterday. I mean, Alex, we're talking about, man, this guy's made a lot of catches, but a guy, a veteran that maybe won't be on this final roster, now you're getting a chance to practice in front of the Dolphins, in front of the Bills. If they need a receiver, they say, okay, remember we're practicing against this guy. They can look at the film. You'll get to see the one-on-ones. You'll get to see the 7-on-7. You'll get to see all these individual drills that you wouldn't get to see in the preseason game to really check and see if a guy's skill set fits your team. Young guys that are on the edge of the roster really love these joint practices. And then you'll see once it comes to a guy's getting picked up in the middle of the season, a guy's getting picked up on the waiver wire after final cuts. A lot of times it's guys that played against these teams in these joint practices because they got to see, even the practice squad, because they got to see an up-close look at what some of these guys look like, not only in the games is the only thing that other teams get to see, but also the drills, the one-on-ones, the pass rush, the coverage drills. They get to see everything. So it's also a good opportunity for the young guys. I want to make sure to point that out and not just talk about, the top of the line dudes that are out there trying to get better.
The Bears have said that. I mean, that's happened with the Bears specifically. When they hosted the Dolphins for joint practices in 2021, Jakeem Grant was a member of the Miami Dolphins. What happens? A few months later, they had a need for a punt returner. They had a need for a little bit of help in that wide receiver room. They brought in Jakeem Grant, and one of the things they said, hey, joint practices, this guy looks really good. And we had that first, we had eyes on him really on our practice fields. So, yeah, we felt comfortable bringing him in. So absolutely, it is great audition tape for everybody and for both teams, both ways.
Love Jakeem Grant, by the way. I covered him in Miami. Okay, real quick, guys. Let's transition here because we have a lot to get to. The 3 of us were all out at the OTA yesterday. It was the first OTA that was open to the media. It was the second day of OTAs for the Dolphins. Okay, Ruthie, go back to Miami. No one wants you here anyway.
To be fair, we're talking a lot of Dolphins. The Dolphins are coming in. We're talking Jakeem Grant. We're talking
a lot of Dolphins here. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, Ruthie, get it together. We were out at Halas Hall covering the Chicago Bears yesterday. And it was their second OTA. We also learned that it was only their second day of install for at least the offense. We also learned, or didn't learn, anything from Caleb Williams himself because he did not speak to the media despite all of the noise and headlines surrounding the starting quarterback of the Bears and his father that are all the details coming out in the Seth Wickersham book in a couple of months here. So we didn't get to hear from Caleb Williams, guys. And I think that heading into the practice was kind of the headline. I think we all can agree that leaving the practice and leaving the day, the headline was Ben Johnson handled that so well. I think for Ben Johnson to get up in front of the mic, open up his press conference before taking any questions, had an opening statement ready, talked about the practice, talked about a few things, closed with, listen, I get it. My quarterback's been in the news. I can't talk about what happened before I got here. All I know is that Caleb Williams is been outstanding to work with the last 4 months. And Ben Johnson went on to sort of vouch for Caleb Williams when it comes to his dedication to his craft, the dedication to his teammates, his dedication to the city, he even mentioned. So I think the way Ben Johnson handled it, we all sort of felt like, man, this guy's going to be pretty good at communicating, not just with us, but with the city and with his quarterback. What were your guys' biggest takeaways from what Ben Johnson said surrounding the Caleb Williams stuff yesterday?
I think he handled it perfectly, as you said, Ruthie. It's exactly what you would want to hear, expect to hear. I think it would have been a bigger story if he hadn't said the right things. And honestly, there's a lot of, it's a reasonable answer. I wasn't here. I wasn't the coach, right? The comments about Shane Waldron, I got nothing to do with this guy. I'm new. I'm here. We are building something new. The past is the past. We're focused on the future. I think that's completely reasonable. I think it was also, notable that the teammates spoke up for him pretty emphatically as well. It didn't seem like lip service. The way Tremaine Edmonds was saying, like, Caleb's my guy. Like, I love Caleb Williams. I have never seen this side of him. All I see is a dude who is a competitor, who is going out, right? Like, okay, he's a competitor. He works really hard. Those are the things I would expect to hear. He doesn't have to go and be, big smile on his face, be like, he's my guy. I love Caleb Williams, So when I hear Tremaine Edmonds speak about Caleb Williams like that, when I hear Kevin Byard speak about Caleb Williams like that, that also, I think, is just like, okay, it goes back to what we were talking about in the last podcast episode. What was the timeline of things? When did Caleb Williams say, I'm going to be the quarterback, I'm going to make this work? Was he saying, I want to go to the Vikings literally 5 minutes after he meets Kevin O'Connell because he got out of a great interview? Or was that an elongated thing? Was that a prolonged thing? Because by all accounts from the teammates, it seems like he is dedicated to working and being a Chicago Bear. So the Ben Johnson stuff, great to hear. Also great to hear Tremaine Edmonds, Kevin Byard, etc., standing up for their guy too.
Yeah, and just to touch base on that part, Alex, about wanting to go to the Vikings, like, he didn't know he was going to be a Bear at that point, right? And I remember I got drafted by the Eagles. Didn't talk to the Eagles at all. Didn't even have a combine visit with them. Like the Cowboys, the Eagles' rival. I remember visiting with the Cowboys at the combine, taking a pre-draft visit out to Dallas and being like, man, I want to go to Dallas. And obviously I'm not the number one overall draft pick and I'm a mid-round tight end guy, whatever. But a lot of players do think that way. You go to these meetings, you just feel a certain way about a place. You're in the building, the coaches, how you vibe with them. You maybe meet a couple of the players, the coordinators, and you're like, man, this would be a really cool place to go. So I wouldn't blame him at all for anything that he said about wanting to go to Vikings. When Bears fans hear that as one of their rivals, it kind of hits you a little bit. Man, he wanted to go here. But you do got to realize that that's something that a lot of players feel and what they do. And I know you're not the number one overall pick when most guys aren't, when the Bears do have that number one overall pick. So a little bit of difference there. But to go back to Ruthie's initial question about Ben Johnson, I loved how he handled it. And the thing that stuck out to me was one of the reporters asked, what are your thoughts on Carl Williams and insinuating maybe a lot of people think like this, that Chicago is where quarterbacks go to die. And Ben Johnson goes, I love it. I love it. And I'm like, wow. I love to hear that as a player because, as he says, it gives us a chance to do something that hasn't been done. He's a guy that's up for the challenge. And to me, that just shows his competitiveness and how much he's willing to give and how confident he is in himself, in his system, in his staff, that he can change that. He doesn't care about that. Some coaches would get defensive and you could throw up their guard, put up that wall a little bit. This was blah, blah, blah. Start saying some different things, but he welcomes it. He loves that. Okay, keep saying that. We'll see. We'll see when season gets here. And that's the kind of attitude I love to hear because I know that attitude starts with him and it trickles down to Caleb and the rest of the team. So to me, that was my main takeaway. And I loved that comment and how he handled that.
Yeah, the lack of hesitation when that question came, it was almost, I don't think he was thinking about that question, but it felt like he had an answer planned with how quickly he was able to jump. I think it was Grady who asked the question and he said, I love it. It gives us an opportunity to change the narrative and to be the people that get to do that would be really special. This is how stories are written. I think were his words. That was, that I think spoke to the intensity that we're not just seeing off the field. We are also now getting a chance to see it on the field, fellas. And the three of us were standing there yesterday watching practice together being like, Ben looks pissed. On the field, we were all like, this guy is not letting anything slide. He was frustrated at times. Even saw him sort of reset, make guys line up again. There were a lot of instances where, again, we understand this is day 2 of install. There are going to be mistakes. And he even said that, in his press conference, like, we get that this is just part of the process, but it didn't look like the cleanest day, right, for the Bears on the practice field. What were your guys' takeaways?
Definitely clunky, but that's to be expected. Like, if everything looked really sharp, that would also be like, wait, it's day 2 of install. There's supposed to be mistakes. What's going on here? Are you not putting enough on these guys' plates that it's so easy for them to pick up? Absolutely no concern that it was clunky, that there were pre-snap issues. We saw confusion with shifts. We saw confusion with motions, guys getting lined up or not lined up. All to be expected. As you said, Ruthie, again, exclamation point, underline, italicized, day 2 of install of a complicated playbook. These guys are learning a new offense. So was Caleb Williams not in rhythm with some of his wide receivers at times? Absolutely. Did he also make a few really good throws with some really good catches on the other end? Yeah, that also happened. We saw DJ Moore lay a great out route on Jalen Johnson and, beat Jalen Johnson by a half step, which is all he needs. Caleb Williams got him the ball. Completion. We saw Rome Odunze run past Tyreek Stevenson. Looked like a little post off the top of my head. Caleb Williams, once again, great ball. Did Rome Odunze catch it? No, he didn't. Am I super concerned that Rome Odunze let the ball go off his fingers a little bit? No, because it kind of went right through his hands. But they're just getting back in the swing of things. So was it clunky? Yes. Am I worried? No. But were there the flashes? We again saw the flashes. You mentioned Devin Duvernay he was making catches out there. 𝗻𝗓cieህ𝗁𝗶𝗃 looked smooth because the Luther Burden was not there. And maybe we should touch on that a little bit. Luther Burden, soft tissue. He came back on Sunday of rookie minicamp, but he was clearly not himself. We did not see him out there on the practice field. Again, concern level, very low. It is very early. We saw good things. We saw clunky things. All of it is to be expected.
Yeah, I agree with you. The first thing I noticed was there was some tempo there. Like, there was a little bit of an edge on practice. Like, they were moving around, nobody standing around. And I think that's what we all expected with this coaching staff. Randall L's working these receivers. You got 𝗵𝗔𝗍 working these running backs. He even had a couple soccer balls out there he's rolling with these guys. I don't know what he's doing. I've never seen that one before. Played football for a long time. Guy's got 2 soccer balls out there. Who am I to question Eric 𝗵𝗔𝗍? But I loved what I saw. Dennis Allen working the defense. Al Harris with the DBs. Like, these guys were working not only in the team stuff, but individual. So I saw the tempo there. That is an NFL-style OTA practice, old school NFL style. These guys were getting some work in. And then to talk about Ben, like we've talked about this a little bit on the Big Pro Football show last night. And I know me and Alex were standing there, and the Bears break the huddle, line up, and then you hear Ben have a few choice words, tell him to get back in the huddle and says something to 𝗁𝗂𝗏𝗏. And then they come back out. And the only thing that was wrong was 𝗁𝗂𝗏𝗏 was supposed to be split out a couple yards. So Ben isn't taking things lightly. They wanted to be coached hard. They wanted to be held accountable. And that's what he's doing. So I love to see that from Ben. And even on that out route you were talking about, Alex, when Caleb hit DJ Moore and DJ took it down the sideline for a huge gain on Jalen, you come back and you see Ben talking to Caleb and hey, I don't know if that was Caleb's correct read, but he's coaching him up on something and didn't look happy about something even after a big play. But that's what you want. And then there's another instance, Ruthie pointed this out to me actually, where Caleb needed the play twice. And she's like, look at Ben. Ben's looks a little irritated because he's having to give the play twice right now. This may be the second OTA, but he is not letting these things go. And I think in the long run, that is going to be a huge thing because these players are learning that you are accountable for everything. No, it's not okay to get the play twice. No, it's not okay. Even if you score a touchdown, you didn't throw it to the right read. If you come out the huddle and you're not attached, don't be attached. We're stopping practice and you're going to figure that out. And I think that's one of the things you get when your head coach is the offensive coordinator. You're going to be held, your offense is going to be held to a whole nother level just because you got this guy that's in charge of the team, but also in charge of the offense. And then to reiterate what you said, Alex, even with Colson Loveland out, even with Luther Burden out, I think you saw some of the depth of this receiving room. Devin Duvernay made some big plays, and obviously he's going against some twos. This guy's played a lot of football. In pre-practice, I'm talking to Alex. I'm like, I don't know about the route running for Devin Duvernay. Then we come to team stuff, and this guy's making plays. 𝗻𝗂𝗍𝗂𝗋, I thought he looked quick. He looked like he was running some good routes. And then DJ and Rome, they both had solid days. Yeah, we talked about the post route that went right off of Rome's fingertips. And it looked to me like he slowed down a little bit at the end of the ball. And once he gets more used to it, you get a little bit further along in the season, you're going to run through that, and it's going to be a perfect pass. To talk about Caleb a little bit, there's some up and down plays there, but it's always a little bit sticky. It's a little bit messy in there when there's no pads on. You got these guys rushing. You can't pick up a blitz the way you want to. You can't attack as an offensive lineman the way you want to and really create that collision to give yourself that extra foot of space for your quarterback. So I was pleased with what I saw from the Bears offensively. It was a little bit harder to check out the defense, especially when there's no pads on. But to me, yeah, practice was a little messy. Love the tempo. Loved what I saw from Ben Johnson, and the Bears wide receivers unit seemed to have a little bit more depth than maybe we anticipated, even without Luther Burden and Colson Loveland, their two young studs that were out.
Yeah, I think it's also important to remember that Duvernay's probably going to be your returner. Like, he's probably not going to play much on offense at this juncture just because of how deep that room is. But at the same time, like, hey, if you can throw him in for some things here and there, like, the more the merrier. Because, like, if he has that position solidified on special teams, like, he's going to be on your active roster. Like, find ways to use him in situations, especially if he still looks like that on offense. You know,
even though he's 5 plays. 5 plays for Devin Duvernay. That's his little package.
Sure.
Can he impact the game? Awesome.
Right. Yeah. And we know Ben Johnson likes to get creative and design new things and throw random players in. People be like, what the heck is going on now? So that's really fun. I thought it was really cool to just kind of be out there and watching football and, you know, seeing what these guys are going to, you know, hopefully trend towards in the months to come. We hope it's all positive. From some of the, I was going to talk about, we're talking about how intense Ben Johnson is. I think it's important to note that I'm seeing a similar fire and edge to Dennis Allen, who we haven't really talked too much about, because I think there's this sort of offensive infatuation happening right now in Chicago. Ooh, I like that. What's happening? There's an infatuation with the offense. Yeah, offensive infatuation right now. But Dennis Allen and Ben Johnson seem to sort of have similar coaching styles, similar ways of kind of not like striving for perfection, making sure that these guys are getting after it on every single play. And so I don't know if you guys caught on to any of that yesterday, but it was kind of cool for me to just sort of up close and personal see Dennis Allen coaching these guys.
I'm be honest, I was not really watching Dennis Allen that closely. I'm so sorry, but I believe you. And we heard Tremaine Edmonds and Grady Jarrett speak to that a little bit about like what they love about Dennis Allen is he makes the expectations extremely clear. They know what the standard is. They know what they need to do because Dennis Allen is laying it all out there. What I was watching a little bit more was Al Harris working with the CBs, and you know, we can't really hear everything, but watching that interaction, the beginning of that relationship is going to be cool. That could be a really, really good situation. Al Harris working with guys like Tyreek Stevenson, working with guys like Jalen Johnson. But next time, I promise you, Ruthie, next Wednesday, I'll be watching Dennis Allen a little bit.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Yeah, Dennis Allen, he's like a head coach of the defense. And I think a good thing about Ben is he's completely fine with that. Ben knows what he doesn't know, and he knows what his specialty is. Yeah, you'll see him over there with the defense, but he knows he's an expert on offense. And I've obviously talked about this before, but I've had some experience with Dennis Allen as a player, being on the offensive side of the ball. He's a defensive coordinator. He's not afraid to coach these guys up, and he's so intelligent. He can watch. It's like he sees all 11 players at once. And these coordinators and head coaches sometimes, Coach Reed was the best at that. I don't know how after a play, he's going to come and coach up 3 different guys. Like you only have one pair of eyes here. How are you seeing this thing so holistically? And he knows exactly what happened. And that's something you see with Dennis Allen, the guy with that amount of experience and that amount of. Another thing he brings is credibility, that amount of credibility. Like when he talks, you listen. This is a guy that's ran top defenses in the NFL for years. Didn't have one good year, 2 good years, 3. This guy has done it for years and been on championship caliber teams. So that's a big thing too, is the fact that the credibility is there both offensively and defensively. And that's going to make both sides of the ball really listen when these guys talk.
We talked to Joe Thuney yesterday about his extension, which he's interesting, right, Clay? And you and I have kind of prefaced this before he got here. He is soft-spoken. He doesn't really say much, doesn't have much to say. I mean, he's just kind of a, like, show up to work, do your job, to take a phrase from where he started his career. He just leads by example and has been the ultimate example of what a pro is in the NFL. And he talked a little bit about his extension and why he decided to stay here, and I don't want to make too much of what he said. Like, they were going to pay. You got traded, and then the team that traded for you, like, right. You're on the tail end of your career. You're going to take the money. Like, I don't know if it's about this situation, if you care about winning anymore. Like, you've won your Super Bowls, plural. Like, you are good. Get the money. See if you can help out a young team have some more success than they're used to. Obviously, I think it's someone who's highly competitive, wants to win more Super Bowls. Favorite ring is your next ring, whatever you want to say. But I think his comments about just like loving the city, loving the history with the Bears, and being a part of something that could potentially bring success to the city was definitely cool to hear. But guys, I don't really take too much away from what Joe Thuney had to say.
Yeah, I agree.
No, I like Joe, and obviously I talk about my time in New England, getting to know Joe, and obviously we lived together. We were roommates when I had a cup of coffee out there in New England, and that's just who he is. He's just quiet, unassuming guy, shows up every day. He's in the training room, he's in the weight room, he's doing everything right. He's going to be that quiet leader. But he's a guy that, he didn't need to get paid again this year. He could have waited and tested out the free agency market. Yeah, they extended him, but he's still getting his base salary for this year. So I think that's something that is special. Like Joe, if he didn't want to be here, he wouldn't be here, in my opinion. So I think he just believes in Ben Johnson and getting a chance to know these guys and be in the room with these guys and all these offensive linemen that he spoke so highly about, getting to work next to. Really influenced his decision. But I think it was a steal, and I know you're paying a guy a lot of money that's going to be 32, 33 years old, but he's a guy we've spoken ad nauseum about. He's a guy that doesn't miss games. He's going to play no matter what. He's missed 2 games in his entire career, 146 games. He's missed 2. So, that's impressive. He had the number 1 pass block win rate last year. You need to pass protect for Caleb Williams. I think it's an excellent job getting this done. And yeah, you see him. He's a guy that's just going to speak glowingly about his teammates, but don't you kind of want that? Sometimes media people want somebody who's going to give you something, but as a team, yeah, that's the guy I want. Go out there and talk about how everything's great, how excited you are to be here, and just work. He's a guy that realizes a lot of stuff doesn't matter. You know what matters? What I do between the lines, when I never miss a game, when I don't miss a block, when my team needs me at left tackle, guess what? I'm going to bump out to left tackle for the Chiefs, and we're going to make it to another Super Bowl. So for me, that shows you the type of player he is, how serious he is about what really matters, and that's what happens between the lines on Sundays.
And no quote boards coming from his press conference availability.
No headlines.
But again, the Bears probably love that. No quote boards from Joe Thuney.
I don't know. The way the Bears operate, they love a headline the last couple of years. No one's telling them not to make headlines. I'll tell you that much. Anything else you guys wanted to touch on? Kind of a shorter episode today, but go ahead, Alex.
A few things. One, again, these are just little notes that are not huge. Karan Amagaji was the first guy out at left tackle. Braxton Jones is obviously still hurt. 𝗦cie𝗄𝗶𝗟 did work again at left tackle, but he was with those second waves. Hard to evaluate what Karan is doing. Okay, yeah, go ahead, Ruthie.
To that note, just in terms of I thought it was interesting. 𝗗cie𝗰𝗶𝗹 and Tyson Bagent's kind of switched off with the twos. I thought that was interesting as well.
Yes. So it was hard. We were kind of talking about that because it was hard to kind of suss out what was going on. Case Keenum was the second quarterback out there, but it didn't look like the twos. It looked like a mixed group, and then they kept mixing those groups. But yeah, absolutely worth noting that Case Keenum and Tyson Bagent were both working in there and getting decent amount of reps. So that was that. And then Jaquan Brisker, I think, we should talk about Jaquan Brisker. He was out there. He did not look slow to me. He was around the ball. And, I know like you're doing installs and you're doing weird things, but when they were doing team stuff, looked like he was around the ball. I saw something that, and I was actually away from you two. I was talking with my pal Sean Hammond with the Tribune at this point, but did you all notice, looked like Brisker had like come down, like flowed down to the line of scrimmage. It was picking up a wide receiver at the line of scrimmage. So that was like a weird look that I was like, did I see that right? But I'm pretty sure I did. So Jaquan Brisker moving around, he looked good. He looked fine. And if he's a guy who is healthy and he gets his eyes right, like that's something that he was working on last year before he got injured, like making sure his eyes are in the right place, reading keys for the run game. If he can take that next step, this is a guy who could be a huge impact player if he stays on the field. So I thought it was very encouraging to not only see Jaquan out there, but to see him, from my, bird's eye view, looked like he was moving pretty good out there.
Yeah, he was moving good. My only question is, Alex, and I've never questioned Jaquan Brisker on his ability or how he can move, is what happens when you're taking on a running back head on in the hole. You're coming downhill, 10 yards separate you. Are you still going to have that instinct that makes you such a good player to lay that big hit? Only other thing I really wanted to touch on was I thought Grady Jarrett was great in his availability, just talking about how open he is to helping these kids and how approachable he wants to be. And it's hard for a young guy, I've been there, to maybe go up to a veteran. Like this guy's been in the league for 10 years and pick his brain. And Grady Jarrett is just going to be such an asset in the fact that he's been there, he's done it, he's been a Pro Bowler, he's won games, he's been to a Super Bowl. He knows how to take on double teams, he can help you on the field. He knows that stuff, but even off the field with your routine, with your film study. So there's a lot of things that Grady Jarrett is going to do to benefit this team that aren't necessarily on the field. And then hearing that Gervon Dexter was kind of organizing, the meeting in Miami with a lot of these players. Montez was out there, Grady Jarrett was out there. That makes me feel like, Gervon is locked in. He's ready to have a big year. He wants to learn from Montez. He wants to learn from Grady, and he's really looking forward to this season. A lot of times you see a breakout season is season 3. You get you get better, you improve the most from your first season, your second season. But I feel like you become that star from your second season to your third season. And if I had to pick a guy that I think could do that, it's Gervon Dexter. His mentality, his mindset, the way he's moving, the way he's kind of changed his body. I really like what I saw from him and love what I heard from Grady Jarrett.
I just want to dig right back in real quick. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Ruthie. Very quick. Yes, thank you for bringing up the Gervon. With the Grady Jarrett stuff, the other thing that I really loved was him saying, like, Shamar Turner is a guy who came up and said, man, when I was watching film of the NFL, you're a guy who I used to watch, and how much that meant to Grady Jarrett and how that keeps him motivated, because he didn't want to be like, oh, man, I met Grady Jarrett and his work habits aren't great. He's like, oh, this is who Grady Jarrett is. So that like keeps him motivated, keeps him working at a high level, because he doesn't want to disappoint the young guys who watch film of him. He wants them to be impressed with his work habits. I thought that was phenomenal. And then just like another interesting tiny little note, very early, Andrew Billings was not at OTAs. Neither was Zach Pickens. So it's like, okay, what are the Bears going to do on the defensive line? We saw Gervon playing a lot of nose tackle next to Grady Jarrett, who was playing 3-tech. So just an interesting, hey, if some guy goes down, let's see what Gervon Dexter could do at nose, because he's an enormous guy. I thought that was like a little interesting nugget there.
Yeah, great stuff. Just back to Gervon, I know we're bopping around here, but it's funny you're talking about what's going to happen for him this year, Clay. When I saw a video of him working out, I'm like, he looks like an edge. Like, he looks so lean and like athletic. I don't know, maybe they'll try and move him around. Like, it's really interesting to see sort of what this new scheme and how this new staff will try and get the most out of him. Because he just looks like dialed in, whether it's his diet, his workout, it's always really kind of interesting to see the way these bodies transform as they get further into their NFL careers. Looks like you, Clay.
Yeah, you guys looking athletic. That's what I said. Like, this guy's dialed in. He's been working out. He's having people come out to Miami. I think he's really serious about this, and that's what you want from a guy that's going into his third season.
Yeah, love it. All right, guys, that was great stuff. We're going to have so much time to dissect OTAs and how this all goes. And maybe we'll hear from Caleb next week, but probably not, because who knows? Thank you so much for listening to the Charter Podcast, brought to you by St. Xavier University. Ruthie Polinsky, Clay Harbor, Alex Shapiro, coming to you every week, a couple times a week. And we love to do it. We'll see you next time.